Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the 76 Hunger Games. We are bringing them back. Live with me are our fellow tributes, reaped into the arena. I'm kidding. Welcome to BiblioTech On Air, BiblioTech's official podcast, and thank you for joining us. I'm Rosanna.
I'm Ruby.
And I'm Israel.
And I'm Danny.
Who's going to be joining us today for our special recording on, you probably guessed it, Sunrise on the Reaping, the newest novel in the Hunger Games world by Suzanne Collins, available on our resources. Shout out to Haley for being right on top of that.
Yeah, for sure. So just a quick summary. And before we get into the summary and our discussion, spoilers. For Sunrise on the Reaping, for the trilogy, for Songbird of Ballad and Snakes, you've been warned.
Anything Hunger Games related. The movies have been out for 10 years. Books have been out for
10 years.
Yeah. And
man.
well, not the movies, but the books.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, I think the movies too.
I think so.
10
Yeah.
years.
Like 2014-ish.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Well, I was 19 when they came out. That doesn't feel right. It feels like they've been out for a good while.
They've been out for a long time.
Chat, check the facts.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if we're wrong or right.
Link posted right here.
But spoilers, you've been warned. So just a bit about Sunrise on the Reaping. Sunrise on the Reaping is a Hunger Games prequel that follows a young Hamish Abernathy in the months leading up to and during the 50th Hunger Games. This is actually the second quarter quell. Born into poverty in District 12, Hamish is a sharp, resourceful teen who hopes to escape the capital's grasp, especially on the day of the reaping, which also happens to be his birthday. After a violent and manipulated reaping, Hamish is forced into the capital's deadly arena with double the usual number of tributes. The newcomers, while navigating brutal combat, political gamesmanship, and the capital's thirst for control, his relationship with Lenore Dove, a rebellious and insightful girl from home, becomes a source of strength and heartbreak. The novel explores trauma, survival, propaganda, and rebellion, ultimately revealing the roots of the cynical, haunted man Hamish becomes in the original trilogy. But yeah, that's a little bit about it. It is available on our resources, both Hoopla and cloudLibrary, with your BiblioTech library card. If you don't have a BiblioTech library card, we do encourage you, and you're a Bexar County resident, visit one of our 4 locations to register. It's free. And if not, we're a digital library, so you can actually register at our website, bibliotech.org. It's going to be one of the first tabs. Register here. You get a library card, password you create, and then you have this book and many more available to you.
But with that said, let's go ahead and get right into our thoughts and questions about Sunrise on the Reaping. So, initial thoughts. What do y'all think? What were y'all's overall thoughts about the book?
I really did love it. I listened to it while I was baking, and I was just obsessed. Like, I had to literally stop baking and pause the audiobook to just kind of listen to what was going on and kind of think about it, because I was scared of like missing any parts, and I didn't want to forget anything. So I was like, okay, I need to relax and like listen to it again and play it over.
You were able to take in with full attention all the sadness that
I
happened.
tried my best, because I was so scared of forgetting
Gonna
things.
cry into the cookies.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
The most delicious cookie she's ever made.
Channeling your inner PETA.
Exactly. Yeah, making bread.
Making bread.
The bread boy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's been a while since I read the original trilogy. I did watch the movies. I read and I saw the Songbird of Ballad and Snakes. I was ready to jump back in. I'm glad we got Hamish's perspective. It's something that a lot of the fans were wanting. I really enjoyed all of the cameos. I do know there's some critiques about the cameos, but you know that they were forced. I didn't feel that way about the cameos. It was very sad, very bleak, but we kind of knew that going into it.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit prepared, which I thought I was, but I wasn't prepared for certain scenes, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Ruby?
Yeah, I liked it. I loved the cameos. Loved Effie. She's one of my favorites. Mags. All of them. So I knew everyone was gonna die going into it. So I was like, don't get attached.
Spoiler.
Don't get attached to anyone. Don't have feelings for anyone. Which you can't help that. You're still gonna like some people.
Amber.
But I liked it. It was my first Hunger Games book. I didn't read any of the other ones. I binged all the other movies like in the last 3 days. So it was a lot to take in, and I loved all the details. Now I'm excited to critique the heck out of the movie when it comes out.
Oh yeah.
So do you think, knowing what you know now, would you go back and read the original trilogy?
I probably would, because now seeing like during the movies, I was like, man, everything's kind of happening so fast. I'm not able to grasp anything or connect to any of the characters. So now that I know the pace that the book went, I'm curious as to that. I know it's going to differ from the movies already.
Yeah. Rosanna, what about you?
I loved it. Like you said, it's kind of, we thought we knew what we were getting into because we knew more or less the outcome.
Yeah.
But absolutely not prepared for how everything played out. It was just... So it's well known that Suzanne Collins only writes when she has something to say, and boy, did she have something to say with
She
this
spoke.
book.
I saw a meme that said, "I just know every bad day Suzanne Collins had, she went home and took it out on Hamish."
She did. Or also people joking about like Suzanne, for every thirst trap about President Snow and Tom Blythe that Suzanne saw, she went and just shot Hamish another
Good.
time.
That needed to be done.
Honestly, because that's a whole nother
That's a whole
discussion
critique.
we can
Yeah,
have.
that's a critique I had of the movie itself.
Yeah, but with that said, let's go ahead and get right into these questions. So we're going to start at the very beginning of the book, which opens up with Hamish's birthday. His brother Sid walks into his room and tells a freshly turned 16 Hamish, "Happy birthday." So with that, how does the fact that the reaping falls on Hamish's birthday influence the emotional tone of the story and his outlook on life living in District 12, which, as we know, is the poorest of the poor in District 12?
And he actually does live, Hamish lives in the Seams, which is the poorest of the poor within the poorest of the poor. You know? Danny, what do you think?
I was surprised. I think I fell into like the propaganda or little persona he played. So I expected him to be like a lot more sarcastic or not as happy, but I was very surprised by how like compassionate and kind and like positive he was. I think it kind of makes me sad that I did fall into that, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I know him, but then reading the book, you know, getting to know his background, him as a person, how much he loved, you know, Lenore, I think that it really surprised me.
Yeah, definitely. It sets it up perfectly, right? It's his birthday on reaping day, and it's just super sad. How do you even celebrate that, you know?
He does not get a cake on his birthday. They felt it was not right.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's true.
That's valid.
That's valid, you know? But thankfully his brother Sid was like, "Happy birthday," you know?
Like, they still find a little bit of joy, even though they know what's coming ahead of them. But it really does set the tone
For the
from
rest
the
of the
get-go.
book. Yeah,
just to be
definitely.
like, oh, it is not.
Gonna go. Oh, Suzanne Collins hates Hamish.
So we find out that Hamish gets illegally reaped into the Hunger Games. He is protecting his girlfriend, Lenore Dove, who is just a force of a girl. He's
She's a wild
absolutely in love with her, a wild child, who's also part Covey from the, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So how does Lenore and Hamish's family shape his worldview before he's reaped, and what do their beliefs reveal about hope, resistance, and survival?
I liked what Danny said when she was like, going into this, you just suspect Hamish to be this sarcastic, unlovable type character, and seeing how much love he had for Lenore and how much hope he had, it's so crazy. It's like a different person almost.
Yeah.
You know, it does mirror what President Snow says about hope. And as long as they have hope, you know, there's a chance that, you know, for them surviving. And that's kind of what I think of him, because with Lenore Dove, he was absolutely smitten with her.
Yeah.
Both of them, 16 years old, you know, just imagine being 16. You're in a dark situation, you're living a reality that's just, we can't even comprehend, you know, but you still find love, and that's your escape. Your escape. Being a teenager probably adds a lot of those intense feelings as well, you know. I
don't know if he would have fought as hard as he did in the Hunger Games if he didn't have Lenore.
Yeah, definitely.
It was such a sincere, innocent, just all-consuming love they had, and the fact that he's just that's his main goal. Like, when he's in the Hunger Games, he's like, I want to, you know, make Lenore proud of me, or I want to make it back to her.
To survive.
Because of course he has his family, but it's just like Lenore, she's just
different.
So present. So going back to how Hamish's reaping is illegal, what does the Capitol's manipulation of the reaping, from Woodbine's death to the staged farewell, show us about their use of propaganda and control?
Well, first of all, once I heard Woodbine, I was like, who the heck is Woodbine? I was like, I have no idea who that is. And I mean, really, it just shows like how much control the Capitol does have over every single little thing, because we do find out that there's a 5-minute delay. And in 5 minutes, right? Woodbine tries escaping, everything happens. So Drusilla's like, Haymitch, you're gonna be the new tribute. And like no time to process that at all. No, like, what the heck? Like, oh my God, what is happening? So it really just goes to show that the Capitol has control over everything. They give no regard to anybody's feelings, anybody's thoughts. And it does make me wonder about the games itself. It's like, I understand it's a punishment, right? But man, it's not even like a fair punishment at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it never was. It never was. But you see how manipulated it is, the games themselves, and it's just like, man, from the very beginning.
Right. They only care for it from like a consumeristic entertainment perspective, which that's not going to end well for anyone when you just look at it from that. There's no humanity there.
Yeah.
There's no compassion. It's just Haymitch saw Lenore trying to go protect Woodbine's dad, and then for that, he gets reaped into the games.
Yep.
He should have just been eating gumdrops with Lenore later that day.
I think it also made me wonder, like, how many things were they hiding? Like, how many rebellions or how many protests there's been over the games and we're just not seeing because they're editing things and taking things out. So I think that was really interesting.
Yeah, case in point, District 13. Like, nobody knew about District 13. They destroyed a whole district.
Yeah.
And then we do find out later on, that the games are heavily edited. Like, Haymitch's games is not at all what happened.
Yeah.
And we do see in the original trilogy that the games that Peeta and Katniss see, they saw what was seen on TV. And then Haymitch does tell them, like, this is what actually happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But so the book is split into 3 parts. So with that said, it's pretty much the intro leading up to the Hunger Games, the games themselves, and then the aftermath.
So Haymitch is illegally reaped, right? And then he goes on to the next section, right? Which is where the training happens, the interviews, making allies as well. And so we do find out that one of the most important scenes of the book kind of sets everything, the resistance tone of it, is that the chariot scene, right?
Yes.
So all 4 of them, Luella, Haymitch, who else? Wyatt and then
Mace Lee.
Mace Lee. They're on the chariot, and then a commotion happens with the horses, and Luella dies horribly, And in an act of defiance, Haymitch goes up, takes Luella, presents it to President Snow, and President Snow is just there, like, watching, And so Luella passes away. But we do find out that later on that the people the people watching TV, watching the games or the pre-games or whatever, they didn't see this, right?
They're like, look, she's right here.
Right, because we find out that in just a grim act, President Snow, while in a secret meeting with Haymitch, is like, oh, by the way, look who's here. It's Luella.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what? That's not Luella. She died. And even...
She did.
Yeah, she did. And Mace Lee is like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's just they're all shocked because Luella, little connection that she has to Haymitch, well, big connection because that she's younger. She's the youngest of the District 12 tributes.
Yeah.
And remember, there are double the amount of tributes for this quarter
Yes.
12. So Luella is someone that Haymitch would kind of looked after in the scene, excuse me. But he kind of had like a sibling affection for her.
He would call her his sweetheart.
And so he's, just like, that's my sweetheart. I need to look after her. But then the baby of the tributes, the first one, she's the one that dies. Her head gets smashed on the pavement. And so and again, it's just like they don't have time to process that in everything. And that's also just such a small display of the cruelty that the Capitol has.
Yeah, they just try zombifying this poor little girl that they just picked up from anywhere.
District 11.
District 11, there you go.
Yeah, District 11. How do you feel about that? When you were reading that, Danny, and they're like, here's Luella at the entrance.
I thought it was insane because this whole time I was thinking, okay, how are the districts, how's the Capitol reacting to this going on? And then finding out, of course, that nobody knew that happened. I was like, what? Like, how does that even happen? How do you just, completely erase that? It was crazy. So I think I was just shocked. I was like, I cannot believe that they were able to get away again with hiding something so big.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's that 5-minute delay as well. because they must have cut the feeds or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I read that part as well, it left a pretty strong impression on me of how evil President Snow is.
Yep.
And I keep calling him president. He doesn't deserve that, right?
Snow.
He's Snow. Yeah, and maybe that I just haven't read the trilogy in a good while. But man, he appeared a lot more evil. In this book, to me, there was different scenes with Ampert, with Luella, so what he did to Haymitch in the end. That's very evil, and it could be that he just has to prove a point. He has more of a point to prove, right? Because later on in his life, you know, you grow older, and you kind of know how to navigate certain, you know, scenarios that happen when rebellion does arise. Like you were saying, Danny, you know, how many rebellions have they maybe squashed already behind the scenes?
Yeah.
And so he has already that, maybe perhaps that experience is, you know, under his belt. But with this is one of the things where he has to really prove his point. He has to really deliver it that, no, I'm taking your hope away.
Yeah.
Right. But we do see not a tinge, but we see a large amount of hope coming from Plutarch. Right.
Yeah.
We do find out that Plutarch he's part of the resistance. He's part of the rebellions from the get-go. We learn because he speaks to Haymitch, right?
Yes.
And he allows him. He takes Haymitch to the side and he's like, "Hey, so here's a phone. You can call Lenore Dove." And like Haymitch is very hesitant at first
Because he's like, what's this camera guy?
Yeah, who is this
He's
camera guy?
obviously a part of the Capitol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he plays the capitalist role perfectly, right? He has Snow fooled. He, even to the very end in the trilogy, he has Snow fooled. How did y'all feel about Plutarch, seeing Plutarch, and kind of that he's been behind the scenes of the resistance for such a long time?
It was very interesting. I mean, Plutarch, he was introduced right at the District 12 reaping, and it seems like from that moment, from the get-go, he's trying to get on Haymitch's good side.
Yeah.
Which, again, like you mentioned, understandably, Haymitch is like, this guy's sketchy. He's
Yeah.
just using me for propaganda. And then same thing with like his district co-partner as well, Macely. She's like, we're not going to give this guy the pleasure to,
Yeah.
Like they're all just incredibly suspicious up
We
until
need his
that moment.
backstory.
That would be
That would be
amazing.
amazing.
That's
Yes.
something. That's something.
I would
definitely.
love that. Yeah.
Like, what caused him? Was he
To be a part of the
anti-capital?
resistance.
the whole, like, from his start, or did he have this plan all along? As he was
Exactly.
a baby.
Yeah.
Like, was he just capital privileged?
Yeah.
And then at one moment there was a turning point, or was it he just had
Yeah,
a moral
yeah, yeah.
compass where
He
he
just
was
came
like,
out the womb like,
no, you're
Yes,
going
scheming.
down.
Yeah. But we do learn as well that also part of the rebellion is Beatty. And I believe Wyrus is part of the
so
rebellion. Mags.
Plutarch is one
Yeah.
of the first cameos that we run into. Well, not cameos because he has a strong presence throughout the book. And then, like you said, Beatty. We find out Wyrus and Mags are there. And
Ampert, Beatty's son.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is
And we
a-
do learn that Beatty is being punished for a failed attempt at disrupting the communications of the Capitol. And so in an act of punishment, President Snow puts his son Amper, who's 12 years old, into the games. And Beatty's like, yeah, my son, in talking to Haymitch, he's like, my son is going to die. My son is going to die. But we have this plan. And we'd like to see if you'd like to help us out. All right. Part of that plan is forming an alliance to be counter to the careers. Right. How did y'all feel about all of that formation of the newcomers, is what they're called? You know, what role do you think trust really plays in the formation of these alliances, remaining neutral, joining the careers even? What do y'all think?
Definitely classism. Classism plays a big part of that. We see that, like you mentioned, with the careers who are training their entire lives to volunteer to join the Hunger Games willingly when they're 18. They're going to, feel some kind of
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
camaraderie.
The fact that alliances always baffled me in the Hunger Games, because I'm like, everyone knows there can only be one winner.
Right.
So I was like, even though you guys are helping each other out, like survive this,
At
like,
some point it's gonna-
at some point,
Yeah.
not all of you are gonna make it,
Yeah.
and y'all have to remember that
Yeah.
and sit with that.
Which
That
I'm sure like they're
They all
very
did, yeah.
cognizant of that, It's just, if we're all going to die, let's make sure at least
we try
one of us
or do something.
or do something instead of just being another casualty, another statistic, just another nameless kid that died in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, another statistic that Wyatt gave out.
Which Wyatt, he's one of the district tributes with Haymitch. Oh my goodness, that
Super smart.
genius, absolute genius. he was kind of an underdog as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That was really cool. All right. So with that said, alliances are formed. We have the careers, the newcomers, the neutrals. We get right into the Hunger Games, and same format as typical Hunger Games goes. You have the descent or the rise and the ascension into the Hunger Games. You have the bloodbath in the cornucopia, people getting their equipment, splitting up. While Haymitch had agreed to protect, his doves, the other members of the alliance, Ampert, he decides, well, I have a target on my back. President Snow's going to be after me for several events that happen throughout in the book. So I'm going to split off and just try to blow up the arena on my own. And as we see, it's not as easy as he makes it out to be. Right from the get-go, we find out that at the bloodbath, Wyatt dies protecting Lulu. And so Ampert and Haymitch, they are reunited. But before we get into that, because that is going to be a major plot point. So how do Haymitch's survival strategies, including the use of the arena's geography, reflect his intelligence, rebellion, and emotional transformation throughout these games?
He's a smart guy.
For sure. Very resourceful. Very resourceful. Very
introspective as well. One of the things that I enjoyed in the book was that we got a lot of his thought processes, right? Like you had mentioned, he's thinking, I'm a danger if I keep on with this alliance or I keep, during the games, I'm around them, I put a target on their back, which, I mean, there's only going to be one victor, as you mentioned, right? Even in an alliance, there's only one victor. But he's still thinking of them. And we get several moments in the book where his thought process is shown, and I really enjoyed that. It really showed, his survival instinct. That even in such a horrible situation as death being such in front of his face, he's still thinking of the other people. He's still thinking of it. Even when he's reunited with Ampert, right? He's like, and that's one of my favorite moments. He sees Ampert coming, and he's like, man, I don't know how to react. I can't be joyous about this because then the Capitol's going to see this, Snow's going to see this, and they're going to be like sus about it. Like, why are they so happy to see each other? And so he's like, so I'm going to act very stoic. I'm going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, man, blah, blah, blah.
I think that's what was really interesting is that he really just had to play up the part. Like that the rascal image and having to like make every single one of his steps fit into that. So like literally just having to think every single time, how does this fit into the Capitol? How does this, like, how Israel mentioned, not look sus to them or weird, especially with his plan.
Yeah, you're right. Because when we see his thought process, he's thinking like the audience is still watching this. Like, what are they going to think?
Exactly.
So the fact that he's thinking about all these things, all these parts, that's crazy.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, on top of surviving, you have to think, like, what does the Capitol think? And I feel like he, especially like how Israel said, having a target on his back. I mean, Snow already told him,
you're going to die.
You're going to die. And if you die, your family will be fine. So I think that's in his mind. It's just blow up the tank. And he's not surviving. And he's just a target for the newcomers.
All right. So you mentioned the tank, Danny. And that is pretty much the core plan for these Hunger Games. Beatty and Haymitch, they have a plan to blow up the brains of the arena, which they discovered is under the arena itself. So Beatty told Ampert and Haymitch, meet up. Y'all have the equipment to make pretty much dynamite and explosive. You'll go in through the tunnels that the mutts come through, which, quick tidbit, mutts are mutations, terrible creatures made by the Capitol. We get the reuniting of Ampert and Haymitch. Ampert, beyond excited to see Haymitch.
Yeah, any thought process that Haymitch has about appearing a certain way is just out the door because Ampert is like...
I was like, Ampert is this little kid that's just so cute, so positive, and... even though he's literally life or death situation, he has the most positive energy that you can see.
Like, he knows he's gonna die. But he just still...
For the cause, man. For the cause.
Exactly.
The real one.
For my dad.
Yeah.
So they make it to one of the mutt tunnels. Haymitch goes down. He's able to blow it up. And he's getting attacked by mutts as he's climbing through the tunnel again. Ampert throws the torch down. Haymitch is able to swing those shocking butterflies away because that's what they do. And as he's making up to the tunnel, he sees Ampert's face and he's just elated. He's like, all right, we did it. Only for him to just vanish. And he's like, where did this boy go? Climbs through the tunnel. That's my son. And he hears like this squeaking sound. And he sees just this pile of like golden squirrel mutations. And he's like, where's Ambert? What are these squirrels doing here? What's going on? He's fighting off the squirrels. Well, no, he's not fighting off the squirrels. He's fighting to get to the squirrels because they have one target.
Yeah, they had one target.
And that is Ambert. And these squirrels are just picking Ambert clean. You get a moment where all the squirrels just kind of like come to it, leave, and Haymitch is left with
Pearly
the
white.
Sparkling
clean bones of Ambert, the tracker in his arm, and the axe. And just heartbreakingly, Haymitch barely has time to process it, or no time, because he just kind of goes, buddy, and just freaks out. And that was such a devastating moment.
Snow was just in his office like,
he delivered.
Sick him.
And he delivered. He delivered his punishment to Beatty. He delivered his punishment to Haymitch. And I mean, I wonder if they just showed that on the TV as well.
Doubt it.
Who knows? But Danny, when you got to that part, were you baking and you had to stop or what?
I was so upset. I did have to stop while I was baking. I had to literally just pause the audiobook, think about it, get really sad, and then be like, oh, that's crazy. Like pearly white bones. Like that must have hurt.
Yeah.
That sounds awful. So I definitely had to pause my audiobook and like not cry, but be like, damn.
It was devastating.
For sure.
Devastating. Like I got to that point in the book and I was like, what the heck is this? I was like, that is so evil. I do notice though, that there isn't much description of the pain that, or there isn't any description of the pain that Ambert goes through, which, I'm grateful for, because that must have been just beyond painful. I can't even imagine the pain that Beatty had to go through.
There was that one line where Haymitch is like, somewhere far away, Beatty's heart breaks into a million irreparable pieces. It was something along those lines, and that just really drove it home.
Definitely. So Haymitch still had, so they do this plan, and they do flood. It does disrupt the games for a bit, but it doesn't end the games.
Yeah, not to the extent that they would have wanted.
Plot twist, they had generators.
So the generator, Haymitch comes upon it by reaching the end of the arena. He goes up north and he finds this hedge full of like these blood-sucking ladybugs. He's able to get past that, and he sees down on the ground
where he reaches like the end,
the cliffs, the end of the arena, and he sees like the force field. And well, he doesn't see it, but he realizes there's a force field, and at the bottom of that like little trench or whatever, there's a generator, but that itself is covered by a force field. So he makes it his goal to be able to blow that up as a final kind of like heck you to the capital.
Defiance.
So we get to the end of the games, and Haymitch's tributes from his district are all dead. All of his alliances, everyone's dead. Welly just died. Basically, his companion from District 12 that became a sister to him throughout these games is dead.
The way Welly died was horrible.
Horrible. It really was. It took a moment of humanity that these kids bonded through. Him, a district career tribute,
she was
and
butchered.
Welly.
She was literally butchered by Silka. And Haymitch tells Silka, if you win, how do you think everyone's going to come to you with open arms after doing what you did?
Yeah.
No. And Silka does understand that. And then she dies.
She dies courtesy of Haymitch.
Ricochet.
Yeah.
Right, because it's down to the nitty gritty. It's Haymitch versus Silka. You have Silka and Haymitch just going at it with a sword and an axe. She slices his gut. He's holding his intestines to keep him inside. And they reach the end of where that force field area is through the cliffs. And so people always say that Haymitch did it strategically, but I think it was just like pure luck that it happens, because as she throws the axe, Haymitch's knees give out and he falls kind of like in exhaustion. The axe bounces back and just gets Silka. She dies, and Haymitch is a winner of the official Hunger Games, but in a last act of defiance, still has material for an explosive, throws it as the Capitol people are telling him not to. No. And he tries to blow up the arena, thinking that he's going to die, and this is it. But
we find
surprise.
out it doesn't. And so with that, Haymitch wins the Quarter Quell, the 50th Hunger Games. And so he's recovering in the Capitol. They have him basically under house arrest. And right after he's starting to feel better, they just parade him around the districts in, classic Victor trip.
Capitol.
Classic Capitol Victor trip. He's held in a cage. People are just allowed to feed him and touch him.
It's so weird.
And they just have him as kind of this
zoo
attraction,
animal.
a zoo animal.
It's so weird. While he's healing from his scar and everything, and feeding him, it's such a weird thing to do.
And so he after all of this, he's finally, his long-awaited trip home. He's allowed to finally go home. He gets to District 12, departs the train, excuse me. And then at the station, it's just empty. There's no one. And he's like, I get that there's not going to be a lot of people here, but there should be some people here.
Yeah.
And so
Maybe
he
his
realizes
mom and his brother.
There's he's looking at the sunset and he's like, oh, that's beautiful. But then he realizes it's smoke, and something in his gut tells him it's not right. He takes off running and arrives to where there's a fire, and it's his house. And he's just screaming to be let inside. But they're like, sorry, Haymitch, you can't go inside. So the first victims of
the consequences of his rebellious
actions in the game.
Rebellious actions in the game are that his mother and his brother Sid die. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said they had to share one coffin. That's how bad it was.
I mean, him just being outside of the house, not being able to do anything, spending, the time in the parade, having to do all that before thinking that he's going to go see his family, letting him feel all those emotions, and then doing that to him is insane. How
sickening.
It's sickening. What is wrong with Snow?
Sickening in not a good way.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And so with that, we see that his return to District 12 is just a nightmare. We see that he has really nothing to come back to until he reaches Lenore Dove.
Yeah.
But in just a grim twist of fate as well.
Hold on. They get their cute little moment.
They
They
do.
see each other
True.
from across the
Yeah.
meadow, and they're frolicking towards each other, and then they get an embrace
Spending
and kiss.
time.
But even though in the back of his mind, he's thinking I'm gonna tell her to get away from me. Obviously, Snow is after everyone. I want her to live.
Yeah.
This is gonna be our last embrace. She's gonna make it out of here. Let me feed her this little gumdrop.
Yeah, and Lenore dies. Lenore dies in Haymitch's grasp, which is beyond horrible. But it does also, Snow thinks of everything. Every little thing Snow sees, every little thing Snow thinks of, he is everywhere. And then that's just a testament to the control that the Capitol has, but in reality, that Snow has over everything.
He's conniving. He is a very intelligent human being.
He leaves no chance for hope at all.
No.
Right? No chance at hope for all, right? You're going to rebel? Okay. Beatty, your son is going to die. Okay, Haymitch, your mom, your brother are going to die, and this girl that you love is going to die as well. And I'm going to make you push everyone away. And to top it on the fact, you're going to have to be the mentor to the rest of the kids, that are going to their death.
And
right?
like Rosanna said, he's very smart about the way he goes about things, because just he gives Haymitch hope that he's going to go home to Lenore and his family, and then boom, takes it away. And in the most insane note, it could be an execution, something a little bit more simple.
But it's no,
But,
he
poisoning.
made Haymitch feed her the poisoned gumdrop.
Exactly. So
Yeah, I know.
always in the back of his mind.
So he already comes back from this traumatic event, the Hunger Games, being paraded around to, still having some sense of hope. And then it's just all taken away from you. You're broken, man. It's no reason, why we see Haymitch the way he is in
Just
the
a
original
drunk,
trilogy.
just- Yeah.
Alcoholic, pessimistic.
Yeah, and it's just, we do know that there is a resistance, a rebellion in the future, right?
Yeah.
25 years
He
later,
eventually gets his
he
win.
eventually does fulfill his promise to Lenore Dove, right? Because she said, what does she say exactly?
Oh, make
Something
sure the sun doesn't rise.
on the reaping.
Which is the whole
reaping.
title of the book.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and that promise is fulfilled. And in the book, kind of the epilogue, we do find out that he kind of like maybe still talks to her, you know.
Yeah.
And she ages with him as he's
Exactly.
talking to
Oh,
her
I
in his
missed that, but
mind.
that's
I think he said her soul ages with him. And I think that was so sweet because I was like, oh my gosh, like they didn't get the ending they probably wanted, but at the end of the day, like he still very much loves her and cares about her even all
Yeah.
these years later.
And we do find out that the geese that he raises were given to him by Katniss, and that's because Haymitch shares his story of what actually happened in the games, as I mentioned earlier, you know, with Katniss and Peeta. And in a tender and caring moment and an act of kindness, Katniss presents him the geese, right? Because at the end of the movie, we're kind of like, it's kind of just thrown in there. He's raises geese, and people are like, "What the heck is that? Like, what is going on?"
But
What
we
is
find
this?
out it's
And we
because
find
Lenore
out.
Dove had her own flock of geese, and that was like her thing. The geese just
Yeah.
loved no one but her, unless Haymitch had like food for them.
So the book ends in a very sad,
Bittersweet, very bittersweet.
We get the epilogue with Katniss, Haymitch raising geese, but I really enjoyed it, as I stated. But out of 10, let's start with Danny. What would you give Sunrise on the
Oh my
Reaping
gosh.
out of 10?
I would say a 9,
A
just
9.
because the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was a 10 for me.
Ooh,
I mean,
nice.
every connection, you know, this book had to that. I was living for it.
Good,
Like,
nice.
I loved, well, obviously not loved because, you know, Lenore Dove dies, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I would give it 9 out of 10 as well. I really enjoyed it. It brought me back into the universe. It leaves me wanting to understand other characters, specifically Plutarch. I'd like to learn about Beatty as well. But I do like all of the cameos, which I felt were nicely strategically placed and necessary as well. I saw some gripes, as I mentioned, that people were like, oh, it's just cameo filled and she's just pandering to her fans. I didn't feel that way. I thought they were all used strategically. It makes sense. Victors are mentors to, you know, the tributes, and the past victors are going to come out.
I was like,
right?
this isn't that
Wyrus,
far away
Mags.
from the Hunger Games
Exactly.
trilogy.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's 25 years. 25 years in the grand scheme of things is nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing. But yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Rosanna?
I think I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I was like at a 9.5, but you know what? I liked everything about this book. I like the discussions that it's prompted, people just diving back into the Hunger Games, the way we went in depth with Haymitch, and then we got some subtle lore drops as far as like Katniss's family, her, you know, how close they were to Haymitch, related to the Coveys as well. It was just overall just a great read, and the pacing was done well. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to rereading it, as well as the original Hunger Games books and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, just to kind of really connect everything again, because it's been a hot minute since I've read the books.
Yeah, nice.
Ruby?
I would give it a 10 out of 10 too. Previously, I was a 9 out of 10, but after like reading or talking it over and really reminiscing with it, I'm like, man, it was a good book. It was sad as heck, but it was good. I love the way it was written. I love all the characters that I felt like we had enough time to really get emotionally attached with the characters, and then get sad that they died. And I love Haymitch. Can't wait to see Woody Harrelson play all the characters in the movie.
Just swapping out
I'm
wigs.
looking forward to that. That better happen. So yeah, I liked it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of The Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. If you're interested in checking out the book and you are a Bexar County resident and would like to register for a library card, or if you already have one, visit our website at BiblioTech.org, which is also where you can register. First tab, again, or visit one of our 4 locations to register there. It is free.
Thanks for joining us again on this episode of BiblioTech On Air. And Danny, thank you again so much for joining us. If you're not familiar already, Danny is the creative mind behind so many of our Instagram videos. Please make sure you go check them out. She is just absolutely skilled with her knowledge and then just her camera work. So again, Danny, thank you for joining us. Really
thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Yeah, well, the next book for sure, we'll have you on again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suzanne, maybe next year?
All right. So, you know, Plutarch's book, Joanna's book, whatever's coming out soon.
Oh, Joanna would be so good, actually.
It would probably be a small one, but the movie is coming out next year. So with that said, we'll probably have you back on then, Danny.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd
But
be great.
again, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Rosanna,
I'm Ruby.
I'm Israel.
And I'm Danny.
and we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.